Friday, November 24th. I slept for 18 hours yesterday. No one woke me up to go to the game. That was good. No one woke me up for Thanksgiving dinner either. That was weird. It was 4:30 on my alarm clock when I finally opened my eyes. I lay there in the dark for another hour, then got dressed and went down to the kitchen. I was starving. As I was finishing a turkey sandwich, I heard the sound of the newspaper plopping onto the driveway. I walked outside. The air was cold, but nowhere near freezing. The wind was blowing from west to east, blowing the smoke of the muck fire through the starry sky. I walked back inside with the Times and sat on the floor of the great room. The headline of the sports section was, "Lake Windsor defeats Tangerine." Underneath that, it said, "Antoine Thomas throws for 3 TDs, runs for 2, in 30-0 rout." I started to read about it, but then Dad wandered through in his pajamas on the way to the kitchen. He stopped and scowled at me. He said, "I thought you had a cold. I don't hear any coughing or sneezing." I answered, "Sorry, Dad, but I'm feeling better today." We locked eyes for a few seconds, and then he continued into the kitchen. When he came back out, he had a cup of coffee, and he had lost the scowl. He sat down on the floor next to me and began to talk about his favorite subject. "You didn't miss much of a game. You know that big center, Brian Baylor?" "Is he the one who hangs out with Antoine?" "Right. He's been snapping the ball to Antoine perfectly all year. Yesterday, I guess he forgot how. The kicking game stunk to high heaven, and it was all because of him. I think Coach Warner should have benched him." Dad pointed to the sports section. "Do they even mention Eric in there?" "No, they just say that the score should have been higher, but Lake Windsor missed all 5 extra points." Dad's eyes shot fire. "Missed extra points? Is that what it says? Eric didn't miss anything. He never even kicked the ball. The ball never even got anywhere near him. Brian Baylor made 5 bad snaps in a row." I couldn't resist. I said, "Well, at least we won. That's the important thing." Dad didn't even hear me. He was shaking his head back and forth. It would have been nice to finish the season on a high note with a big game, but this Baylor kid ruined it. He took a sip of coffee. "I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't used to snapping the ball to Arthur." "Arthur? You mean the coach actually put Arthur Bauer in the game?" "Oh yeah, he put all the seniors in. It was their last game, and it was a blowout. Of course he was going to play them all." He pointed at the paper. "Is Antoine the big story?" "Yeah, he's pretty much the only story." Dad brooded about that. He finally said, "It's like Brian Baylor did it deliberately. Like he wanted to make Eric and Arthur look like fools. All 5 snaps were wild. They were high or wide or they bounced before they got there. He made Arthur jump for them or dive for them or chase them down. The last one went so high that Eric had to run it down himself and fall on it. If those Tangerine linemen had been faster, Eric could have gotten hurt." I thought, just wait until Monday, Dad. Eric is going to get hurt. Arthur Bauer, too. We heard Mom in the kitchen rattling some pans, so Dad got up and joined her. I turned to page 2 and saw a large composite photo with this caption above it, "All-County Middle School Soccer Team." I studied the names and faces. I knew them all. 4 were from teams that I'd played against, and the other 7 were from teams that I'd played on. The faces of the players, actually their school photos, were arranged in 3 rows, the way that a team would pose. Under each photo were the player's name, school, and position. One face, however, was missing. Across the top row, the strikers included Maya Pandy, Gino DeLuca, and Tommy Acoso. The middle row, of halfbacks, included Victor Guzman and Tino Cruz. Across the bottom row, one of the fullbacks was Dolly Elias, and the goaltender was Chandra Thomas. It was Chandra's face that was missing. There was an empty frame where her photo should have been. I stared at them for a long, long time. Did I want my own face to be up there? Yes, I did. Did I want to change what had happened to me this season? No, not a minute of it. Not ever. Chandra had earned her place on this team. I wondered if she felt proud to see her name, if not her photo, in the Times. I walked out to the kitchen, found the scissors, and started to cut it out. Mom and Dad looked up. Dad said, "What's that?" "The all-county middle school soccer team." "Yeah? Are you on it?" That question really hit me the wrong way. I couldn't believe he had asked me that, and yet it was so typical. I answered, sure I am, Dad. They picked me as the all-county bench warmer. He looked annoyed. He sounded annoyed, too. Come on, Paul, did you make the team or not? We locked eyes again. How many games did I play in, Dad? He pulled back. I don't know. What position did I play when I did get into a game? How am I supposed to know that? Okay, here's one. How many field goals did Eric kick this year? He stared at me, and then he blinked rapidly. All right, your point is taken. What's that supposed to mean? It means that I understand what you're saying. You're saying that I know everything about Eric's season and nothing about yours. You're right, and I'm sorry. Mom looked up with interest. All I can say in my own defense is that this was the critical season for Eric. College recruiters are watching him. A lot is riding on this season. His entire future in football is riding on it. Mom asked quietly, what if Eric has no future in football? Dad stared at her blankly, so she repeated, what if Eric has no future as the place kicker for some big-time college football team? Dad let out a short, uncomfortable laugh. What are you talking about? He looked at Mom, then me, as if we'd lost our minds, or worse, as if we had forgotten the Eric Fisher football dream. He said, as if to two morons, Eric can kick a 50-yard field goal. Mom continued, I know he can. What if that's not enough? Dad answered calmly, well, that's not enough. You have to have good grades. You have to show good character. Mom looked down at her coffee. Was she thinking what I was thinking? Did she know that Eric had no good character? Or was she still as clueless as Dad? Did she still believe blindly in the dream? No one else spoke, so I went back to cutting up the newspaper. In the column next to the photo, there was a notice, bordered in black, that caught my eye. The annual Seniors Award Night at Lake Windsor High School will be held on Friday evening at 7:30 p.m. in the school's gymnasium. This year's ceremony will include the dedication of a laurel oak tree in the memory of Michael J. Costello, the Lake Windsor football captain who was killed by lightning on September 7th. 5th. I said, do you two know about this senior awards night next Friday? Dad was still trying, unsuccessfully, to make eye contact with Mom. He answered, sure, we'll all be going. They're honoring Mike Costello, and all of the other senior players, of course. Bill Donnelly is going to be the master of ceremonies. I folded the sports section back up and handed it to Dad. The phone rang, and Mom picked it up. She looked concerned. She said, no, we just got up. We haven't been outside at all. Then she said, oh my God. She got off the phone quickly and pointed at me. Paul, your dress. Check all around the house, all around the outside. What's wrong? That was Sarah from next door. She said somebody has smashed up the mailboxes and spray painted all over the wall. I went out through the front door. Mom hurried to watch me through the side window in the great room. I saw our neighbor's mailbox first. It was smashed all right, like an aluminum can and hanging by a thread from its pole. Then I looked over to where ours should have been. All I saw was the pole, bent at an acute angle. There was no trace of the mailbox. I looked up and down the street. About every other mailbox had been smashed, probably by a baseball bat. Then I went into the backyard. There was no paint on the inside of the wall, so I climbed up on top of it and vaulted over. I hit the ground, turned around, and saw it. Swirling lines of white paint like fake snow against the gray of the wall. I was too close to make out what it said, so I started to back across the frozen mud ruts of the perimeter road. The wind was whipping up. The smoke was in my eyes and my nose. I had to back all the way across before I could read the message. It said, "Seagulls suck." I'm not sure what happened next. I stood there staring at this sight, breathing in the stench of the muck fire, and I started to get the feeling. I started to remember something, some place. Where was it? The wind started to raised up brown clouds of dirt from the perimeter road and mixed them up with black clouds from the muck fire. The sun started to darken like the moon was passing in front of it. And I started falling backward, as straight and as stiff as a tree. That's how Dad found me, stiff and unconscious. He had to pick me up and carry me across the road. He started yelling over the wall at Mum to bring the Range Rover around. I remember telling him, I'm okay, I'm okay. And I was pretty much back to normal by the time they got me onto the couch in the great room. Mum said, I'm going to call the doctor. I said, no, really, I'm all right. Dad was totally stressed out. He started yelling at me like it was my fault. What happened to you? What did you do? Did you walk into a car? I said, no, nothing like that. Mum put her hand on my forehead. I said, I don't know. I can't remember. I really can't remember. Mum looked into the backs of my eyes. She said, this is all my fault. You had a cold to begin with, and then I sent you out into that disgusting air. She started into the kitchen. I'm going to make you some tea. Dad stared at me for a few more seconds. Then he joined Mum in the kitchen and talked to her about the mailboxes and the spray paint. He said, I bet kids from Tangerine High did it after yesterday's game. They were mad about getting blown out like that. He's probably right. Mum brought me a cup of hot tea with lemon. All day long, she and Dad kept looking at me and asking me how I felt. I kept saying, okay. That was true, and yet it wasn't. The whole truth is, I feel very weird, but I can't say why. I can't remember why. Not yet.